Okay, welcome to
Welcome aboard, all you wonderful groomers, pet stylists, and canine cosmetologists. You found the Traveling Groomers Podcast, where we discuss lessons learned from mobile and house call grooming. I'm one of your hosts, Chris Bear Anthony. Any moment now, we'll be joined by my co-host and friend, retired mobile groomer and educator extraordinaire, Mary Aquendo, and very likely a special guest to help us chat about all things grooming, grooming industry related, and just plain fun digressions that I totally wrangle back to topic. Grab those travel mugs and climb aboard to see where today's topic will bring us. Let's roll.
Okay.
Now,
So,
this is
welcome.
why. This is why video is unedited, but the audio is edited. Because how many times are we doing this, Mary? How long have we done this now?
I don't know. Enough. Anyway. Okay. So welcome to another episode of the Traveling Groomers Podcast. Okay. We have a guest today. And okay, so what I'm going to preface this is that I had interviewed Jim a couple hours earlier for a podcast that's going to air in like 2 weeks. But Jim got a professional podcast. And then he comes over here.
And women petpreneurs, Jim, you can already tell, is very different from the Traveling Groomers Podcast. Mm-hmm. He comes over here, and because Mary and I got on a couple minutes early, I was going through a subscription box that I got and unboxing it for Mary because she was thinking about getting it. And I'm going over like, oh, it includes 2 different rituals and an entire sheet front and back about this month's deity. And he's like, oh, and he's got this super professional, like, oh, these are wacky people. And we're just going to be quiet now.
So the question is that, Jim, have you listened to this podcast before jumping on for an interview?
I did actually. I listened to one a couple of weeks ago just to see what it was kind of like. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get through the whole thing just because of timing, not because I didn't like it. But yeah, it seems like a fun time.
Okay, so yeah, this is a little bit different. Okay, so anyway, I'm sitting here and I'm looking at him, and he's got the lawyer face on. Okay, Chris, and all I could see is like, I'm glad I'm not in the room with these people because I would be. I'd be looking for is there a clear path between me and the exit?
Yeah, where's the exit?
The door's right over here, just in case. Do you start off every podcast worshiping a deity?
No, we don't. We're very non-denominational here. Okay. We welcome all faiths. I mean, it was just Yom Kippur as we're recording.
That's true. By
the way, Mary.
Yes.
Welcome to episode number 229, recorded on September 27th, that will be airing on October 4th with our special guest that we didn't introduce. Mary, introduce Jim.
Okay, I would like to introduce Jim Atchison. I met him, Chris. He was at Super Zoo.
Oh, very cool.
All right. You may have remembered Chris as she was tooling around on her knee scooter.
Yes. Okay, now that I remember. That I definitely.
Okay, I either had a knee scooter or I was just driving one around being like, get out my way.
Right. The knee scooter was memorable.
So Chris, normally when we go to, one of the things we like to do when we go to trade shows is that we like to do something for fun. All right. It's one thing just I do not do nearly the number of trade shows that Chris does because I'm not associated with a vendor, with a sponsor. But so I'm at a handful compared to Chris, but there's no point of going to all these trade shows if you don't take the time to do something fun in the area. So she totally would have joined us when we went axe throwing.
Oh, you went axe throwing?
Yes, we went axe throwing.
I've got an axe throwing place up the street from me, so I've been before. But this year was not the year for me to axe throw.
Oh no, she would have took someone's head off.
I think you could put targets up there if you want. You could have brought some pictures with you or something like that.
I'm not gonna lie. The one time I did go we didn't bring targets, but we were throwing names around.
Yeah, right.
We were 100% throwing around names.
Right.
I think most of us would have gotten way better scores if we had somebody who says hello, if we had somebody in particular that we were throwing it at, because this is like right up his alley. He's like, you're throwing axes at people? Count me in.
Right. That's a good time.
Okay,
So-
so Mary, not to put her on the spot, Jim, I clearly know the answer to this question. I'll prove it to you later, maybe. No, there's no way to prove it after the fact. Mary, why is Jim here? That's not a complete introduction. Who is he?
Okay, Jim is a lawyer. He's a business lawyer, and he has come up with a brand new business which would be of interest to groomers, because he's going to make groomers' lives just a little bit easier.
Very nice. Very, very nice.
All right, so I'll let him introduce himself, what it is he does, and then you know what? Then we have questions, Jim. And
Sure.
here's the thing, just so that you don't end up on a sticker. Okay.
Yep.
And I've already interviewed him, so I know this is not the case, Chris. Okay. But we've had guys mansplain things to us. And the first thing that happens is we create the sticker and we give it out at trade shows.
Okay.
And you know this how? Mhm.
I
So
think
and someone suggested today that we need to put, so you should have a little LLC. Put on a sticker too.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's pretty good. That's
that
pretty good.
I have not been doing this for a
Yeah.
while yet.
No, I get that. No, no.
Okay.
It's not for you. Dog in the room.
No.
Sorry.
All right. So Jim, introduce yourself.
Sure. Yeah. My name's Jim Atchison. Like you said, I'm an attorney. I live in Rhode Island and practice in Rhode Island and Massachusetts, from New York City originally. Very new to the grooming industry. Had kind of was introduced to it through River Lee, the savvy groomer. We had worked on some things together, and I got to learn a lot about the industry, which really is fascinating. One thing I like to do is help out, small businesses, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs. And that's, the grooming industry is really rife with that. There are, most shops that are out there are independently owned, independently operated. So great opportunity to help people out. So opened up my own office recently, and then as part of that, looking at kickoff petgroominglegal.com, which the goal there that we're going to present is kind of an opportunity for business owners to kind of get forms and documents that you would typically need, on the legal side of it, employee handbooks, operating agreements, customer contracts and stuff like that. Kind of not as expensive or time consuming as hiring a lawyer on a one-on-one basis, but more specific information than you might just get from like LegalZoom or something like that. So really, kind of base level documents for the grooming industry that are tailored specifically to this industry to kind of keep up with the times. It'll be live documents that are updated. And I think something that can really, help groomers out.
Awesome.
Okay.
That's my elevator pitch.
And you know what? And that's a very good elevator pitch, by the way.
Thank you. I can talk. That's one thing I can do.
No, but this brings up a point of knowing what you sell.
Mhm.
And being able to explain it to people in a manner that they understand, so that they could see the benefit of, I think that would work for me.
Mhm.
So I was telling a couple of friends of mine who are coaches, specifically business coaches, and their jaws just dropped. And they're like, is he going to have like a membership for me to join so I could have access to this for my clients?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that really is the goal, is to have something where, be able to really help people get, kind of the documentation they need, tailored to their needs, as specific as we can, to really just kind of make people's lives easier.
Okay.
Very cool. So I that was the oh so subtle signal from Mary, and I was watching the time, but she was telling me super subtly that it's time to hit my very first button. And speaking of continuing education, because we either were or will be, join the Andis world-class education team each month for live interactive virtual classes. You'll learn new and trending styles, as well as tips and tricks from some of the best groomers in the industry. Whether you're looking for basic skills, trending styles, advanced techniques, or even just ways to spark your creativity, the new Andis grooming education site is your source for finding what you need to create your way for success. Try new techniques, learn from the pros, and grow your confidence today at andis.com/groomer education. Traveling Groomer Podcast listeners, hey, that's you, can get 25% off your first course today with the code VEGROOMING at checkout on andis.com/groomer education.
One of the reasons I like River so much is that she's like the opposite of me, yet the same exact as me.
Mhm, mhm.
I can see that.
Oh,
All
yeah.
right. So one of the things that if somebody comes to me with a really good idea, I'm going to say, go do it. And then I'm going to shove them off the cliff and make sure they do it, because once you're off the cliff, you have no choice but to do it.
That's
Okay.
right.
Because your other option is like bouncing off the side of the mountain as you hit the ground.
Right.
And by bouncing off the side of the mountain, she means she'll yell at you once a week until you can give her an answer. So where are you with this? So where are you with this? And if she doesn't, like, if you've got a decent answer, she might back off
A little bit.
a little bit.
Gotcha.
A
Just
little
friendly
bit.
reminders, consistent friendly reminders.
Consistent. Like if you scream, Mary, I groom full time and do a podcast with you. I don't have and teach and travel a whole lot. I don't have time for that just yet. She will postpone it
Mhm.
until
you get hurt and then have forced downtime. And then it's every week, where are my classes?
Where
Where are my recordings?
I call it accountability partner. That is what I call it. But here's the thing, getting back to River. So I'm sure Jim had this wonderful idea. River was using it and she had this idea. And then, you know what? First trade show she takes this man to? Super Zoo. First grooming trade show.
That was my intro. Trial by fire, I guess.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It was a great time. I had a blast.
Well, actually, I don't know if Super Zoo is the best or the worst, because Hershey would have also been overwhelming, but Super Zoo, you get the broad spectrum because it is pet industry. It is not just grooming. So it gives you an idea of not only, okay, grooming is big, but it's a small part of such a greater whole. And it can give you seeds in the back of your mind to expand. Like, maybe I can expand to pet retail.
Yeah, no, that is a good point. It really, kind of has the whole ecosystem there. And it really, I mean, it really is just I think an industry that a lot of people don't, realize how big it is, once once you actually sit down and think about, how much kind of what an economy it really is,
I think the last time I checked numbers, the pet industry was a $23 billion industry.
Wow.
How many industries are 23 billion?
Yeah. And a lot of them, probably the great deal of them being small businesses too. It's one thing to have one company, that makes 25 billion a year in revenue, but to have, I mean, probably thousands of companies, add up to 23 billion. At least I'm not great at math. That's why I became a lawyer. It really is. I mean, just from the little one person shop all the way up to the biggest companies out there.
Yeah. So it isn't just like there's a couple of big ones, the usual Petco, PetSmart, but there are also large chains. I mean, in Washington alone, there is Mud Bay, which is decent size, Earthwise, and there's another one, and I'm just drawing a blank, Wilco. Okay. And that's just Washington. I mean, there's these small chains in so many states that are like just kind of very regional.
Yeah.
Just to throw out some quick statistics, Mary, because you brought it up and I have access to Google, and this is what we do live.
We do the homework for you, so you don't have.
The global pet grooming market is worth over 1.3 billion. That's just grooming.
Wow.
Pet grooming and boarding in the US generates revenues of 9 billion each year.
Wow.
And they project that the pet grooming industry is forecasted to reach an annual revenue of 2.5 billion by 2032.
Wow.
So in under 10 years, it is growing that fast.
Wow. Unreal.
And that said, as business owners, all right, we're not the big corporations. We don't have lawyers sitting on salary, never mind retainer, on salary that we can say, hey, Bob and Sue, hey, handle this for us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have to sort of protect ourselves, which is why I was so glad when you started talking about what it is you wanted to do. I was like, I really wish I had access to that when I first started. There are so many things, Chris, today I wish I had access when I first started.
I can't even, that's a whole nother episode. We've done episodes on that, just about tools,
Just
we wish we had.
Never mind anything else.
Yeah, I'll tell you something. I didn't realize what a big industry was. The grooming tools and scissors and stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that too. And of course, like River. I mean, she has an encyclopedic knowledge of like every aspect of like what they're made out of and stuff like that. So it was just that part of it, though. I mean, it's
on that, Chris, at Hershey. How many
Mhm.
scissor manufacturers or vendors would you say were there? Roughly. Just scissors.
Just scissors? Or places that also carried scissors? See,
No, let's do. They have their own line of scissors, or they were just selling scissors. That broadens it a little bit. That had been what, 15?
at least 10. I can't, because I honestly lose track. Because I don't just work for Evolution Shears. I'm like, I use their stuff. I only use their stuff. I get tunnel vision. So, and I don't want to, forgot about that. Yeah, probably in the neighborhood of 15. I get tunnel vision because we have such a unique product that I know I am not going to like anything on anyone else's table, number one. And number two, I'm known for being with them. So I don't want to make anyone feel weird by picking up and like playing with their stuff, like checking it out. Cause I don't want anyone to think that I am either being judgy or trying to steal a style or idea or something weird. So I'm like scissors. Yeah.
right.
So, but the point being, just scissors. Okay. And Hershey is a large show, but just scissors. There had to have been about 15 vendors, either with their own line of scissors or just selling scissors.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, never mind any of the other, not including like distributors. And there was what, 3-4 distributors there? I mean, big distributors.
At least.
Wow.
Okay.
I always think, to like me getting a haircut, it's just like, a comb and a couple scissors and inside that blue liquid, whatever that stuff is. And, a buzzer there. But I guess it makes sense when you have, dogs with like all different types of coats. I mean, is that do you have to use like different scissors for each breed of dog, different breeds of dogs and stuff like that?
Yes and no.
Okay.
There's different types of scissors that work better on different coats, depending on what effect you're going for. But it's not like there's, I'm correcting myself in my head as I speak. It's not like there's a breed specific scissor for a dog. And then my head just went, chunkers for doodles. Chunkers are for doodles. You can use them on other things, but And I'm actually going to challenge you. I said, the next time you go get your hair done, ask your barber about his favorite trimmer.
Yeah, I will. I will.
And I'm going to say he is going to come out with 3 different names and say, well, what do you like? Oh, that one over, say, Wall or Ost or, whatever and he's going to come out with, well, I have this trimmer for this. And I like this one best for fades. And I like this one for like the longer trims. And I have to have this one for people who get the details and get the things shaved.
Oh, yeah.
All right. And then after you have that conversation, ask him about his scissors. Because I guarantee you, because that's a conversation me and my hairdresser have. She shows me the brand new pair of scissors she got, and to add to her collection of, I don't know, 40 scissors. So yeah, and I'm haven't checked out. She's got a drawer full of brushes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Different brushes and combs and because I click on like scissor stuff, I see ads for different foil combs and for different beauty stuff too. And I'm like, oh, well, that comb looks great for this. But if you had this for this comb combined with this, I'm like, it's insane. Stop. I'm going to stop, but it's time to hit another button, Mary.
Okay.
Hanvey engineering isn't just for mobile groomers. I have loved my Hanvey equipment for years before I even thought of getting a mobile van, and I wouldn't want to groom without my Bathing Beauty and hair vac. With every piece of equipment in their van and outside of it, having its own QR code linked to troubleshooting tips and fixes, these low-maintenance workhorses turn potential roadblocks into mere speed bumps. Check them out yourself at hanvey.com. All right, hang on one second. Una, what are you destroying? Don't look innocent.
See, her dog is not well behaved and sleeping in her sweatshirt the way mine is.
Well, she can't exactly fit in my sweatshirt. Come up here and say hi.
I bet she begs to differ.
She probably
You just don't
does.
have a large enough sweatshirt for her.
I just don't have a large enough sweatshirt. That is the problem. Come here, Rona, say hi.
All right,
Now,
so
now you don't want to.
back to actual topic. Okay. So legal documents. Okay. Now, when I first started in 2002, I did run my stuff past a business lawyer, and I started in 2002 and I retired in 2020, so 18 years. And, I never bothered to like take my paperwork and like get it reevaluated in that time. Mm-hmm. And I think part of the reason I did it is I really wasn't taking in new clients anyway. I wasn't too overly concerned with a client suing me and whether or not my paperwork would hold up in court, but maybe at some point I should have.
Yeah, and it always is to kind of do a check-in, but it's really not something, I think most people kind of think about. You're really focused on running the business. Once you're running a business, and I think, in my experience, people usually change or update their documents when there was a problem and something happened. It was like, oh man, we still have this in there from 10 years ago. We never updated it. We'll do it now. So, and kind of to that point, one of the things too with kind of, creating a forms library to really do a cost-effective approach here is it would also be something that, will be updated, as the laws change and stuff like that. Certainly 18 years from a legal perspective is, that's a huge period of time, but between, how the laws evolved in many areas between now and then. I think we've discussed before, like non-competes is, a big thing that was very commonplace 20 years ago. But now, states and the law is really evolving away from that, as kind of reflected too by the gig economy, so to speak, that we're getting into. It's changed a lot to where agreements that have it in there, might not be those provisions might not be enforceable or create other problems. So having kind of the benefit of having stuff updated for you, kind of makes it a little bit easier.
Because non-competes are something specific that the laws change not super regularly, but they do change because then the definition of right to work changes.
Yeah, that's right. You know, and probably change is because it more evolves, I guess. Might be better because it's usually incremental changes, but then 20 years ago, to the end point, it's much bigger. But it has, and a big part of that, actually, not to get too legal nerdy, that it's kind of moved is non-competes are invalid in California, where Silicon Valley is, which I actually didn't realize for the longest period of time. I just assumed it was in Nevada or something like that. But so you couldn't have a non-compete, and then as all these businesses kind of built up in Silicon Valley, people were like, oh, no non-competes, like it's going to be a disaster over there. People are going to be leaving and whatnot. And, Silicon Valley managed to survive not having non-competes there. So I think states are kind of starting to recognize that and move away from it. Massachusetts just, very recently really limited the use of non-competes so that they just can't be enforced as generally as they have been in the past. But it all depends on where you live too.
Yeah, and you know what? And the industry changes, so that I brought my non-compete over to a business lawyer, and he's like, "Oh, he reads it. Well, you just don't work within whatever the radius was." And I said, "But you don't understand. I'm mobile." Okay,
Right.
and so technically, my base of operations is my home, which is well without the radius. And he just looked dumbfounded. He's like, "I don't know what to tell you."
Right.
Because this for him has never come up. And mobile grooming at that time was pretty new. So it hadn't been coming up for anybody.
Yeah. No, and that's a perfect example. You really don't know how courts are going to treat that, until someone files a lawsuit over it, right? And you kind of see how it plays out, but it certainly is a different, a kind of a big change that really turns a lot of the non-compete stuff on its head.
Yeah. You're muted, Chris.
I'm muted because my dog was being loud AF. She found the loud toy. There was actually a court case regarding one of the large chain stores, and I read it when it was first filed, but I haven't read any updates on it regarding their training program, and they had non-competes built into their training. And it was, the court case alleged that, okay, so you're stuck there for X amount of years, but even if they fire you, now you have to pay back for your training and your kit.
Yeah, right.
They fired you. So that was a big, I don't know how that turned out. Now I have to look it up.
So Google at our fingertips.
Yeah, right.
So keep going. I'll Google. Keep
Sure.
going.
So there's like minimum paperwork. And I agree. There were some times that the paperwork that I started out with was not what I ended up with. All right. Because things got added in. All right. Aggressive dog waiver got added in. Okay. My senior dog release got added in because you know what? The first time I had to write a senior dog release was on a piece of loose leaf paper. Okay. Was, you know what? Okay. Really clearly, I understand my dog could die during the grooming process. I still want Positively Pretty Mobile Grooming to groom my dog. I understand and this was all handwritten. I understand the risks, and she signed it and she dated it. And that was the only way I was going to groom that dog. And then I'm thinking, you know what? And then you know what? I came up with my senior dog release. And other things that got added in. Some got added in only because I was teaching things on forms. Like I didn't have an anal gland release form because policy was I didn't do them. Okay. And I didn't have one for ear plucking when I had stopped doing it, So like I said, things I see Chris is hard at work looking for that information.
I'm hard at work. I'm not coming up with anything from this year. I'm coming up with the lawsuit. That stuff dated 2022.
All
right. So the thing is, our business is
nothing in litigation. A year is,
Right. It still may be going on. It
Yeah,
still
yeah.
may
I'm
be
sure it
going
is.
on.
I'm sure it is.
Oh,
and
actually, I'm sure it is because I just read the 2 words, which just probably you're going to tell me how much time, how many years it added. It's going to add to litigation time. Class action.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's gonna take a. That extends it a little bit. People are probably gonna get postcards.
yeah, the
Sign
postcards
the
in the mail. Have
thing.
you ever worked for this company?
That's right. That's right. And you get $2.50.
Yeah, I know, right?
8 years from
Seriously.
now.
Okay. I am I'm not gonna send in that postcard because honestly and truly, I'm not keeping track of something for what comes down to $2.50.
See,
Right.
and I wouldn't send in that postcard, even though I did work for that company. I did start my training with that company. I'm sure I signed something, but I am a wise ass. And I went, I don't want to get the tools you give me. Mom, birthday's coming up. Can I have gift certificates to Pet Edge catalog? And I bought all my own stuff. So at the time I did it, it wasn't for the training, it was just for the tools.
Mhm.
Like you signed away, they,
Yeah.
they give you these tools. And
Oh
I'm
yeah,
like,
and they were not the
Oh, yeah.
best. Let me tell you something. The clippers that were made available to me in 1999, okay? This is not going to mean anything to you, but it'll mean something to Chris. Weighed 40 pounds. It was the old Osters, the one with the little vent. So it blew
that
hot air,
hot, dirty fur in your face.
okay? Third-degree burns on your hand, and it
Man.
weighed 40 pounds.
Oh wow.
And one of them had the type of blades that you had to take a screwdriver to unscrew them off and then screw them back on.
Oh wow.
The one thing I will laugh about until the day I die is what genius named this program that they had people sign training repayment agreement provision. It says trap right in the name. They named it trap.
That's pretty good.
I'm not saying that I would have seen it and avoided it. I avoided it for totally different reasons.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
dude, it says what it is, right? It's
That
because
might
of
have been
course you're not
somebody
reading it out.
trying to send a subliminal message,
But if you're broke and you want to get into the industry and you're like, I can do this with no money down and get out of debt and have a career,
Mhm.
it looks good. So I'm not saying
No, I'm not absolutely, because I got my start at Petco and I had my training. And the training was decent. The training was decent. At least when I went through it. So I have no bones against it. And nor did they try to hinder me making a living after I left.
yeah, and I just left and nobody said anything. So I made out well, but the programs change and evolve and my experiences aren't anyone else's. So
Right.
anyway,
Getting
I'm
back
pretty
to what we're
sure.
talking about.
Anyway, getting back to what we're talking, that was legal, right, Jim?
That was legal. That was legal.
Definitely.
Totally legal.
It counts.
That was
It counts for credit.
also approximately 10 minutes. So it's time to hit another button.
I've been swiveling for years now with my evolution shears, but I wasn't actually born with a pair of swivel shears in my hands. Check out our website and Facebook page for our library of how-to videos, or give me a shout for a personalized guide. Your hands will thank you. Don't forget, Traveling Groomers Podcast listeners get $10 off and free shipping with the code ON THE ROAD, all one word. What are you waiting for? Give them a try today.
My dog has the entire garage to run around, to play with a toy, herself, whatever. She is wedged into this corner between my chair and the bookcase. And yeah, I don't understand this child. Anyway, so
Just waiting.
she's just waiting.
Just
All
waiting.
right. So we didn't ask any specific questions. I have some specific questions that are probably so general. Jim, just bear with me. A part of me is going, this is a stupid question.
Yeah.
But say
He said yes.
Yep.
No.
So-
There are no stupid questions, believe me.
So is there anything specific that we need to make our forms legal? Like if I try to write out a client agreement that has everything I need in it, including fees for no-shows and this, and they sign it and agree to my terms, is there anything that I could do that would make it 100% either not enforceable or enforceable?
Sure. That's an answer that can have a lot of nuance to it, but generally speaking, the terms for a contract is, yeah, and this is, kind of what they teach in law school is you have to have an offer, acceptance, and consideration. So as long as the agreement, because right, if both sides have to be giving some form of consideration, or else it's a gift, right? And a gift isn't really a contract. The legal term is a mere peppercorn of consideration. It only has to be a little. But as long as you offer something that the two parties agree mutually, essentially, and that something of value is being exchanged, that's a binding contract. Now, the ability to prove that contract, kind of comes down to, is it in writing or is it not in writing? There are some specific contracts that have to be in writing, dealing with real estate and stuff like that. Really not too relevant though, but an oral agreement is an agreement. It doesn't necessarily have to be in writing. It doesn't have to be notarized necessarily or anything like that. As long as two parties agree, and there's something being exchanged of value, that's a binding agreement.
So that old adage of contracts written out on diner napkins are still contracts.
They are.
Applies, but don't do it.
Right. Exactly right. I would say, although if it is in writing, you have to make sure both sides sign it.
Well, yeah.
Which, believe it or not, that issue comes up a lot. Where one party signed it or the other, neither party signed it. You want to make sure both, if one person signs it, you want to make sure both people sign it.
Okay, now that makes me ask a question that never occurred to me. I give my clients my service agreement, and I had a lawyer friend look over it, and she's like, looks fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I have them sign it, and I make sure I get a copy, and I make sure they have a blank copy just so that they can't say they don't know what's in it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, this is for you to keep. You don't have to sign it. You just need to keep it so you can read it over later. Yep. Do I have to then sign the copy I keep on file?
Your copy?
Yeah,
so
do I have to?
You should, right? Good practices, but technically, and the law is going to kind of vary from state to state, but technically, if you want the contract signed by the person you're enforcing it against, right? So you're never gonna sue yourself under the contract. So, and you could just say, this is the agreement, I signed it. So as long as the other person signed it, it can be binding and enforceable. If it's not signed, then that opens up a whole can of worms. But because you could sign it at any time as a practical matter. You shouldn't.
I wasn't going to say that out loud and admit that I know how pens work and they write any date I want.
Right. But yeah, typically you want to make sure it's just signed. Whoever you are, you want to make sure the other party signed it, and you want to make sure you have the signature of the other party. You don't want to be in a situation where you give them a signed copy and you don't get a signed one.
Okay. I know I had other questions, but that one just kind of pinged in my brain. So what are the most, now that you've been working in the grooming industry for a little bit, what are the most common legal questions you get?
But I want to ask the question first, because he's a lawyer. All right. So you said there are no stupid questions.
Mm-hmm.
You're a lawyer. Have you heard stupid questions as a lawyer?
I would say there are some questions that kind of had me be like, huh?
Okay.
But I also ask stupid questions all the time, on a pretty regularly basis, So I am not casting stones.
Back to your question, Chris.
Sure.
Well, I honestly think whether or not it's a stupid question depends on if it's phrased properly. The example that I heard was a Disney employee somebody asking a Disney employee, what time is the 4:00 parade?
Right.
It sounds like a stupid question.
Right.
But the 4:00 parade covers a big swath of the park. If they're standing 20 minutes from where it starts, the 4:00 parade hits around here at 4:20.
Right.
So there are and there aren't stupid questions.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's true. It's kind of all in the eye of the person asking the question, right?
Yeah, but
I have to brush my doodle.
Right.
It's still a little bit of a stupid question. But if they were lied to and told they never had to, and that these were low maintenance dogs,
right.
I mean, is it maybe still a stupid question, but it's an understandable one because they were lied to? I don't know. Go for it.
We watch too many legal dramas in which, honestly, I think some of the lawyers ask really stupid questions.
Yeah.
They have to ask stupid questions because you're not supposed to ask a question you don't know the answer to.
That's rule number one. The other rule that you'll say out there is don't say it if you can wink it, and don't wink it if you can nod it. But no, that is the famous, the lawyer thing is you don't want to ask the question unless you know the answer to it.
Not in court anyway.
Not
in court, and maybe not if you're a defense attorney, because there's some things you don't want to know. You're like,
That's
la,
right.
la, 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 you're innocent.
That's right.
La, la, la,
That's right.
la.
That's right.
Someone's watched too much Better Call Saul.
All right.
I will tell you that the most accurate legal movie out there, believe it or not, in terms of litigation and civil procedure, is My Cousin Vinny. I mean, everything.
I love that.
Love that. Every legal issue that comes up there is a legitimate, legal issue, from a voir dire to, rebuttal witnesses and whether they can testify. That is I don't want to say 100% procedurally accurate legal show, but man, if it's about as close as it gets.
Chris, hubby and I sat down 2 days ago and watched that My Cousin Vinny, probably for the 80th time.
Yeah, right. Also go through a contract in there, right? That's a counter offer. Yeah. $100 or you beat the crap out of me.
Fun, totally divergent fact. I have a half brother who, whenever I watch or see a clip of My Cousin Vinny, I think of, because he looks a little bit like Joe Pesci, only much taller. It sounds like the last time I saw him when he was wearing like the leather trench coat. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Did you just step out of anyway?
Right.
He was a little bit of a Guido. All right. So what I almost forgot the question I was going to ask you when Mary interrupted me. So what are the top questions that you've been asked? Like, what are the top grooming related legal questions that you get asked?
Sure. Probably the biggest one that I get asked is it has to deal with actually, paying employees or contractors, and, whether or not you have to have, W-2 employees.
W-2 versus IC.
Independent contractor. I mean, that's just generally speaking, that's another legal issue that's evolved a lot certainly over the last 20 years or so. And, a lot of case law out there, and it's, become an area that, the Department of Labor has really been focusing on in terms of, businesses essentially paying people who should be employees as independent contractors. And then, it's a legal question. There are a number of factors and different tests that are used. But that's probably the most common question that I get asked. And then, how do you pay them? How do you pay them legally? And generally, employer questions are probably the main ones that I get, and which probably isn't surprising because, the workplace, especially a high stressful one, a high volume one, there's going to be a lot of tension and drama in there, personalities and stuff like that. So kind of across, all industries, you see that. And in a lot of ways, I tell, my business owner clients kind of tell me sometimes that, they have to be a business owner and a therapist and a mediator, and all these other things. But, a big question comes down to, terminating somebody, or what do you do if someone just stops showing up? What if they have your equipment with them when they start going? Those are one of the bigger issues that are out there, I would say.
Nice. I know one of the quickest ways to start like a fight in some of the grooming groups is to talk about W-2 versus IC.
Yeah.
And the legalities and
yeah. One of the odd things about that issue too, and again, there's the federal law, the FLSA that, kind of applies throughout the country, and sets at least the very minimum standard. And then states have their own. The federal one, it sets the floor though. But it is, it's an area where there's also, again, a lot of nuance in the sense that, like, that there are ways where, you can pay people under a similar formula, or, a similar pay structure as a W-2 employee, from the employer side in terms of how much it costs, that as a 1099, and you're not going to run into that issue. I had a client who wound up having an investigation for a wage and hour claim, and it turned out, because they were getting paid enough, but they were working 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, as opposed to 8 and 40. Where if he had just kind of adjusted the way that the pay was calculated, he could have paid them the same amount of money as a 1099, and done it, without having to run into some fines and penalties and stuff like that. On the flip side of it, a lot of times people want to be paid as 1099s because you don't have taxes taken out, and stuff like that. But that's, if all you're doing is putting off a problem.
You're putting off a problem and you're making it bigger because you're making it you responsible for all of that bite.
And the government doesn't go away when it comes to taxes. Even they're difficult to get rid of in bankruptcy. They'll just stick around, and interest and penalties accruing, and you can wind up in a situation where it's almost impossible to get caught up. It takes a lot of discipline to be a 1099, and I say that as someone who was a 1099 at one point, and wound up with a big tax bill. That I felt kind of. I kept putting money aside, but then dip it into it, and stuff,
but
like
then stuff comes up.
Yeah, right. You're right. You kind of have this, that, or the other thing. And in many ways, there are some benefits, to having the taxes taken out.
Yeah. Mary?
Well, one of the things that comes up, and how often do we hear this in the groups? But my clients won't sign the paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
So then you don't groom their dogs.
Yes. Now here, and I'm just a quick story on this. Okay. So I'm in Hawaii with hubby, and we're going to do one of those ATV tours, right? And it was like the contract of them, the waiver we had to sign was like really clear. You may die doing this. You may be maimed doing this. You can lose a limb doing this. And it was just going on. And we are not responsible for medical bills, nor can you sue us. Sign here. Okay. Yeah. So ask me, Chris, did we sign it?
Oh yeah, you signed it.
Of course we signed it. We're going on
I'd sign it too.
Tour through a ranch in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, we're signing it.
I'm impressed that you read it. I hardly, and I'm a lawyer, I hardly ever really read it. I'm like,
Right.
I kind of think I know what it probably is.
I would have fallen into that camp.
Yeah,
I would have fallen into that camp because I would have just signed it and not really read it, knowing, yeah, you're not responsible. But if I'd have read all this stuff that they're saying, like,
Right. Oh, it's the same thing with, when you download software, where you get the new iPhone, or Samsung.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
agree.
Are you going to get rid of your phone, or are you going to click I agree?
Yeah.
So you don't
You
ever
know,
have-
and the other line on that waiver was that we suggest you rent a set of clothes. We're going through a ranch.
Oh, no way.
Think about that, Chris. We're going through a ranch. We
On an
suggest
ATV.
you rent a set of clothes. We are so glad we rented those set of clothes because not everybody did.
Off air, I will tell you about an analogy I used regarding a dishwasher, and when I had to try to explain something to my mother. But so I'm guessing that you were covered in poop.
Oh yeah, quite a bit of it.
Did they
I
have
was-
shower facilities in the
No.
rooms? No.
So you did not rent. What's nice about it, you rented the clothes, you took them off, and you put it in whatever pile, and you left, and you were good. But there were people there who did not, and it was like $10, Chris. It was like $10.
Yeah. Yes. Two rules that I live by is, one, if you go to a restaurant, there's a meal named after a restaurant, order that. And two, if someone tells you should rent clothes for an excursion, you should probably drop the $10 and rent it. I think those are words.
Yeah.
And I'm right about there. It's with the $10 rule. Like, I'm fully like, if I can upgrade for under $20,
Right.
like, I was renting a car once in Chicago because she told you we try to do things before shows. So I was in Chicago, I'm renting a car. And when you're doing through the rental car, they want all these upgrades, and you're like, no, wait, back. I could rent a convertible for $10 more.
There you go.
How much luggage do we? I think I'm contractually obligated to say yes.
Yeah. That's another rule to live by. When you have the opportunity to get a
Yeah.
convertible for $10 more, do it.
Dude, I had an option, and he went, oh, I don't know which one you wanted. So I just chose which one I would want. It was the cherry red Mustang.
Oh man, that's a score.
That was amazing. I did not drive that enough.
Yeah.
That was
Where were
amazing.
you?
Chicago, just some rental place outside the
Oh, no way.
airport.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool. That's
And
cool.
it was like a random, and I don't think it ever popped up again.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's one of those, when these things come up, when opportunities like that come up, you take them.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think
There's always a reason to say no to something. Sometimes you
there
got to think
is.
of, is there a reason to say yes?
Yeah.
That's what I always said is why should I be doing this? $10 more? Yeah, I think this is a good idea.
Oop, and I lost track of time because I can't count, and we were having fun conversations. That's all right. That just means that we're going to go over.
We always go.
What the hell? Except I don't know. Oh, right.
I love being a house call groomer, but I hate doing laundry or worrying about asking my clients for fresh towels. Raypet has solved those problems for me with the Wet Pet disposable towel, taking up much less space than traditional cotton towels and easy to wring out and reuse. These super soft, comfy, absorbent towels eliminate any cross-contamination concerns between pets. And now their new smaller washcloth size can even help those sensitive eye areas. Great for cleaning out wrinkles gently and thoroughly. Need to keep water bowls for your clients on hand that are easy to disinfect, but hate all the room traditional clanky metal bowls take up? Or just have a very active pet? Their collapsible silicone bowl comes with an aluminum D-ring hook that can be attached to your pet's leash or anywhere else in your van for easy storage. You can get one by itself or in their handy travel kit, along with a set of 3 tick removers and 1 small wet pet towel. So stop by their website to check it out, raypet.net, and tell them the Traveling Groomers sent you.
Ta-da. Okay, so back to topic. So I know a lot of groomers, me included, love the idea of barter and bartering for services.
Mhm.
Is there anything that we should do to protect ourselves during this? Should we have a form? Should we have something that says value? Or is that fall under the handshake agreement kind of thing? Or
Uh,
some of both?
Yeah, the handshake agreement is my favorite agreement because that's what keeps lawyers in business.
Oh, okay.
Every business dispute I've ever been involved in started out with, I never thought it would come to this, you know, and which is another bit of advice that I tell people is, especially if you're starting a business with somebody, and not to get too sidetracked, but it's better to talk about what's going to happen if it all goes bad while you still like each other. You know what I mean? So, even if it's like, well, this person will never do this or this person will never do that. Well, okay, well, let's just put it in writing then. And just in case someone does something we don't think they'll do, here's what the process is going to be. Because, a business divorce is like any other divorce, from a serious relationship, and it can get just as ugly. But
actually,
I,
that's
yeah.
not sidetracking at all. And Mary and I are trying not to name names as you're speaking. We're being
Right.
very good about things. And yes, Mary, I will work on that scheduling issue. But go ahead.
Yeah, we're not going to say it on air. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Okay. But with bartering, I think like anything else, probably what I would think the biggest issue that maybe somebody wouldn't think of is, have some sort of a receipt or a bill of sale. Because, it's one thing if you pay for something, right, by check, or you pay for it by credit card, there's automatically a record of it there, and a lot of places don't take cash. Or if they do, you'll usually get a receipt or something like that. But, if you're bartering, certainly if I was, you kind of wouldn't go, you would just be like, oh, here's this, and you give me this. Probably, at least certainly from a business perspective, I just want to get something in writing there that just says, and I acknowledge giving you this in exchange for this, and we're even Stevens.
That actually makes a lot of sense because I don't do a lot of barter. I think I've really bartered once for a tattoo.
There you go. If you're gonna barter for something, a tattoo is the way to go.
Right. But I did the groom first. So I'm glad that she was a stand-up gal, because it worked out. I wanted a very simple tattoo. She was doing an event. That was the shop minimum. She's like, yeah, that would be a shop minimum tattoo. And I said, that's about how much I charge to groom. You want your dog pink?
Yeah. I would say from a legal perspective, in that scenario, if you're the groomer, what you want to do is you want to groom half the dog first, then get the tattoo, then you groom the other half of the dog. That way you've got some kind of security out there.
There we go. Or a receipt.
Right. Or a receipt. Receipt
works.
The other way to go if you want that way.
The more boring way to go.
Yeah. It is it's good that it worked out, because one area where there are a lot of similarities, I think, between lawyers and groomers, and a lot of this comes from, talking to River, especially about pricing and stuff like that, is I think there are two industries where people don't appreciate the value of your service and your effort, right? The amount of time that takes into to do a good groom, and the amount of time it takes to do, a really good 20-page agreement, or something that kind of covers all that stuff, which, because I think for a lot of people where you get into trouble with bartering services and stuff like that is if the other person thinks they're giving you more, because they don't value how hard it is, to do. I know with my dog, knowing nothing about the grooming thing, I dropped my dog off, and then, 3 hours later they gave me a call and I picked the dog up, and, she looked great. I don't know what happened during that period of time. I've learned a lot about it since getting involved and how hard it is, but somebody might look at it and be like, a groom for a dog, that's only worth $50, or something like that, because they don't appreciate, the skill and the effort and the, training, like we were saying before, in order to do a good job.
One of my favorite stories that I don't think I've told you, Mary, is when I was first working for a big box store, and I was a bather even, we weren't supposed to let people in the back for legal reasons. But every so often it happened, like their dog didn't want to do something and they could help or whatever. And I had a client in the back helping me with their dog, because the dog was like, no, hell no, and fuck no. And they were helping me, and I'm like, please don't get hurt.
Right.
And they actually said, I didn't realize y'all went through all of this, because now they're seeing behind the scenes and they're seeing more than they usually do. They're like,
I wasn't sure if I was supposed to tip, but I 100% need to tip.
Right.
You
right.
know, one of my clients thought she was going to be laid off from IBM, and IBM has a really good severance package, meaning they get like an education to like retrain for something else. So she thought she would be a dog groomer. I mean, Barkley, her golden retriever, she loved working because, it's playing with dogs all day long. So she said, you know what? She was thinking about it. And I said, okay, yeah, you can ride with me. And I told her I would charge her the amount of time she was going to slow me down. So I said, I'll do a day. I'll take 2 less dogs. You pay for those 2 dogs and we're good. And we started off with her dog, Chris. Her dog. Okay.
Did she just nope out then? Did she
No,
just
no,
say, oh, I'm already home. Sorry. Bye.
She was a trooper. She finished the whole day with me. And she goes and I get her back to her house. She goes, hold on a second. She takes the envelope of cash she was giving me and she stuffs more cash in it. And then she says, I'm upping the price of Barkley. I am not doing this for a living.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
This is why groomers are all a little like, we're a little
Nah,
not
man,
right.
It does. It takes a little bit. I mean, imagine going to a barber and the person has to pick you up in order to put you in the chair in order to give you that haircut and then hold you down and make sure you don't run away and stuff like that. Really,
And hold you still when
you're
doing
barbers and
around
hairdressers have it easy. They got it easy. The
Nobody
person's
poops on them or anything.
Right.
All right. So it's about time to get that last commercial in. And then, Mary, I haven't asked some hard-hitting journalistic questions in a while.
Okay.
But before that, what if I told you you could have a year's worth of online education for less than the cost of one in-person trade show? That's right. For only $97 a month, you have access to a different 2-day educational conference with 10 hours of material taught by the best in the industry. And I'm not just saying that because that's occasionally one of me. Every month has a new theme that includes anything from grooming skills to business and everything in between. Can't catch it live or just want to rewatch it because you missed some stuff? Recordings are available for 6 weeks. I can't count. With closed captioning for both live and recordings with transcripts. What are you waiting for? Grab your membership at positiveed.com today.
That's a hell of a deal.
And that was also my way of saying
that's a lot of learning for $97 a month.
I haven't
Seriously.
recorded the commercial yet, but that's okay. I kind of like doing it live. It's kind of fun.
All right. I still need it recorded.
Yes, last week's was really good. I might take last week's and tweak it and add music and say that's recorded.
Okay. That works for me.
But Mary, I haven't done hard-hitting journalistic questions in a very long time, and I can't ask Jim about his favorite grooming tools. But we started talking last week because it is spooky season, and it is the time to watch all of the horror movies and all of the spooky movies. So, Jim, what is your favorite horror or spooky movie?
Oh, probably if I had to say my favorite, probably be like Nightmare on Elm Street. That's what that's the one that I grew up watching those, at sleepover parties after the parents went to bed or something like that. That was kind of the horror movies. Like the horror movies are definitely my guilty pleasure. But on Halloween I do I usually my kids like it too. We usually watch Halloween on Halloween. But probably my favorite one would be the Freddy Krueger series.
Okay.
Johnny Depp, featuring Johnny Depp at the very beginning, a very young Johnny Depp.
Man.
Well, Kevin Bacon was in.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Was in which series was it?
I'm trying to think.
Oh, no clue. No clue.
Was it the one with the Tremors?
Oh.
No.
It wasn't Tremors. That's right.
Oh, no, he was in Tremors. No, but he was in one, and it was a slasher one, and it was held at Crystal Lake.
Camp Crystal Lake.
Friday
that was the Friday the 13th.
Jason Voorhees.
Yes.
Jason Voorhees, yes.
Right. that's
Yes.
right.
Camp Crystal Lake, by the way, in New Jersey. Voorhees, another town in New Jersey. Don't know
Oh,
why
no
that's
way.
exciting.
Yeah. Are you from New Jersey?
Yes, I am from New
Oh, okay.
Jersey.
I'm from
So-
Queens originally.
So, you know what? I could tell, but I could hear the New England creeping into your
I know.
voice.
I know. I've
It's-
actually been. I moved up here in 2001, so I've been in New England now longer than I was in New York. But my dad's family was from Jersey City.
Oh, I grew up down, like right down the street from Jersey City. I was there all the time, Hudson County,
Oh yeah, there you go. There you go.
all the way.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. And oh, okay, Friday the 13th. Freddy Krueger story.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the teenage young sleepover, and that was one of the first horror movies I watched, and I was probably like borderline too young to watch it, which is right about the age you start watching horror movies, when you're right when you're
Yeah.
like 100% without parental knowledge or permission, like.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
I was
a
like
couple years too
all
soon.
kinds of, I was all kinds of scared and nervous. And I had just watched this at the neighbor's house, because God forbid it was on in my house. And my bed was right up against the window on the first floor bedroom, things you would not do today. But my older sister had gone out and stayed out too late. And it was either still warm enough that the window was open. But so right after watching Freddy Krueger, I'm asleep, and I hear on the screen that's like a half a foot from my head, I hear, I can't even do it right.
We hear
Because
nothing.
you hear nothing. I hear this scratch, because my sister is scratching on the screen
Oh man.
to quietly wake me up so I can let her climb in the window so she won't get chewed out for being in past curfew. So she's picture like fingernails on a screen.
Oh wow. That's terrifying.
I will proudly tell you I did not pee the bed,
Yeah.
but
I'm
it
impressed.
was
Yeah.
it
I'm
was only
impressed.
because I wasn't hydrated. I'm just gonna say, if I'd had a big glass of water before bed, there wouldn't have been a problem. I will never forget. And I think I got so freaked out, it completely undid her plan, because everybody woke up.
Oh yeah, that's probably the worst thing
So
you can have.
that's what you get for
Yeah.
trying to sneak in.
Yeah.
Okay, so generation before you guys, when horror movies weren't, the slasher type movies.
Yeah.
So House on Haunted Hill.
Oof.
Okay,
Oh,
the
I love-
original House on
Yeah.
Haunted Hill, not the remake. Okay.
That was a I have things written down for that. What's
So
his name? That was like the king of horror, right? Wasn't it?
for the time. All right.
Oh yeah.
So in one of the
No,
scenes,
if
one of the
we're
scenes,
talking
there's
about
a wet leaf hits like the glass window. Okay. And I had just watched the movie, and it was raining that night. And in my bedroom, all of a sudden, this wet leaf smacks against my window. I spent the rest of the night sleeping on my brother's pool table in his bedroom.
right. First of all, Vincent Price is still the king of horror. I don't care what generation, he is still amazing, up to and including, it wasn't really a horror movie, but Edward Scissorhands, tying in Johnny Depp and Vincent Price.
Yeah.
He's absolutely amazing. It's actually in my show notes for next week's episode to talk about House of the Dead, both the OG and the remake. So now I have to cross that out. Bum, bum, bum.
What kind of scissors do you think they used for Edwards? What would you suggest if they were to recommend a scissor to make for hand for cutting ice?
You know what? Normally I would recommend Evolution shears for everything, but for Edward Scissorhands, since he had such a utilitarian thing, I would do a nice, strong steel with a solid bevel edge, because they were supposed to be temporary. They were
Right.
supposed to be temporary hands. It was tragic. but so probably a nice bevel edge, maybe because he had a lot, maybe a couple little convex on the ends to do some detail work. But
Oh yeah. Yeah, you can switch it up.
I am so, I want to say impressed and simultaneously disgusted with myself that I am that much of a scissor geek that I had an answer real quick for that question. But so, all right, that's your favorite. Now, do you have one that you think may be a little more obscure that you would recommend and say that you need to watch?
He did that to me last week.
You still didn't watch Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Oh, that's a good one.
Okay. I have not seen, well, to my knowledge, I haven't. So you guys were talking about also the Cockneys versus Zombies, which actually I did see once I put it up on YouTube. I'm like, oh yeah, I saw this one already. So she made mention of a zombie movie called Fido. It's made my top 3.
Oh, wow.
Billy, and now do you understand why my favorite line in the movie is, oh.
Yeah. Actually, I think one of my favorite lines is, I knew you wouldn't eat me.
I'm gonna have to check it out now. Fido.
Yeah. But so do you have a favorite that's like maybe a little more obscure, or you think not as many people have watched? Or
Me?
Yes.
Oh, I actually watched the movie Terrifier recently, which was just kind of like a fun horror movie to kind of watch. Not one that's totally silly, but I do like kind of like the B horror movies a little bit too. Like those are fun to watch. But Terrifier was pretty good, and there's a sequel now.
Okay, so I do have, because you haven't watched Tucker and Dale, or Dale and Tucker, I forget who comes first. Then I'm going to hold off and recommend my other horror comedy for you next week. Because I have another one. That's just stupid. It's so stupid. It's fantastic.
That was the best kind. Oh my God.
I want to go watch it now. Like literally, I think I'm going to go watch it in the next 24 hours because we haven't rewatched it in forever.
I have to think of the name of the movie, and I'm drawing a blank on it, but I actually have a friend who starred in the most B movie. It might even be considered a C movie.
Plan 9 from Outer Space?
No. It's something with a cabin. I gotta remember what the name of the movie, but I watched it and I'm like, that is the most B movie I've ever seen in my life. It was really good.
Don't get me started about the Evil Dead trilogy.
Oh my God, I love the Evil Dead trilogy.
You've seen that, right, Jim?
Yeah, I just watched Evil Dead Rise the other day. I love
watched that one yet.
Oh yeah,
I haven't watched that yet. I watched the series, but now I gotta watch Evil Dead Rises. Yeah. No, Evil Dead is absolute classic.
Yeah,
absolute
classic. Not a comedy-based horror movie. Just as a full disclosure to everybody listening.
Oh, Evil Dead.
Yeah, not a lot of comedy in that one.
Not the first one.
There is a clown. There's a clown.
As they go, as the trilogy goes on, they get stupider. Like they get a little more comedy.
Yeah.
But to me, because I saw that in college.
Yeah.
And I hadn't seen any horror comedy genres. And I wasn't super into horror movies at that point. So the whole fight with his own hand.
Oh man, it's the best. It's the best.
And I'm like, why shouldn't be laughing at this?
Yeah.
This is hysterical. So it's not really horror comedy. It'll slowly get you used to it so that by the time you watch Army of Darkness, you're like, this is stupid and I'm here for it. It's okay. It's dumb as shit.
Right. Did you see the that on the what's it called? The superhero movie, Doctor Strange. The actor was in the movie. And then I don't want to, I guess maybe I don't know if I should spoil it for anybody, but it's a small part. He puts a spell on the actor where he has to punch himself, and then at the end of the movie, the spell goes away.
I saw Doctor Strange, and
Yeah.
how do I
It was the hot
not
dog,
know?
the hot dog vendor, who says something to him. He makes him start punching himself. And I'm gonna that did when you mentioned Cabin, I'm gonna change my favorite movie. My all-time favorite one is Cabin in the Woods. I think.
Okay.
I mean, that movie was just, I loved it. I mean, I loved every bit of it.
Okay. So then if you like Cabin in the Woods, and I'm guessing that's slashery.
No, that's yeah, kind of. It's, you have to watch it. It's
Okay.
with what's his name, who played Thor, Hemsworth.
Oh.
He actually filmed it before the Thor movie came out. And then they
I
released
will
it.
watch the hell out of that.
Yeah, I can't, I'll only say it's, you know, like kind of like a monster, you know, one there, but it's an extremely unique movie, and definitely check it out.
Okay. So I'm 100% using the fact that it's September, and that makes it fair to start decorating for Halloween as an excuse to discuss horror movies at the end of our podcast now. No, it doesn't have anything to do with grooming, but this is dessert. God damn it. We talked about serious legal shit. Now we get a cookie.
That's right. That's right.
All right. So it is about that time. Jim, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. It was great to be here.
And how can we reach that website again?
Sure, it's petgroominglegal.com. Easy enough. And if you want to email me, it's petgroominglegal@gmail.com.
Awesome. Excellent. Guys, thank you for listening. Jim, thank you for coming, and safe travels, everybody.
Well, that was fun. But now it's time to head home. We hope you enjoyed listening as much as we enjoyed chatting with you. If there are any topics you'd like us to discuss or guests you want to see join us on this crazy road trip of ours, let us know in the Traveling Groomers Facebook page. Don't forget to thank our sponsors. And see you next week, guys. Safe travels.